I'd like to call this Public Forum Committee meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none. I'd like to call on public forum presentation. I'll call on Wayne Michael, resident of 40 River Street. Mr. Michael, please note you'll have 10 minutes, up to 10 minutes, to discuss your matter before the Public Forum Committee, and you may proceed. So you come up to the podium and make sure it's on.
Can you hear me?
Now we can. Thank you, Wayne.
You're welcome.
The floor is yours.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, Councilman, I'm here. My name's Wayne Michael. I'm 72 years old, probably one of the few longest, oldest, I should say, people in Port Robinson. What I'm here to discuss is what happened at my property with that urge to purge and work orders. Now, I don't know, did you gentlemen get my email of that video? Okay. Did you get my documents that with the pictures and okay. Now, one of the things I'd like to ask about is it possible that that fine I got could be taken off my property taxes and put on a separate kind of issue? Because it's already up. Initially, they fined me $24,000. That's what they charged me for what they did. Now it's up to $26,000 with the interest. Now that was just to take away. I have the picture in here of the storage container. Well, they call it a truck box or whatever. The point being is I bought that property in 2005. That was on the property when I bought it. For 18 years, I used that that storage container as a storage unit and never had no complaints or problems. Now, about 4 or 5 years ago, 2018, Danny and Jason were present at my property because what had happened, I had another bylaw officer removed for whatever reasons, and Danny was there to take over. Now, at that point, they both seen that container there, and it was not an issue. Now, whatever went by, and all of a sudden they just came there and they cut it up with a Sawzall on Remembrance Day. Okay? Now, I wasn't too happy about that. I had relatives in First World War that got killed. I had relatives that fought in the Second. My uncle fought in the Korean War. And that was just on the Friday they came and they took what they took. I asked questions about it. I won't get into all the details of what I was told, but it was not very good for me. Now I'm wondering if that could be done, like I said, for the other issue is, on the work order thing, the bylaw officer did not state the truth at all. I have a copy. I imagine you have a copy of it there somewhere, where you read in there where he refers to the trailer as being full of scrap metal, which I sent lots of pictures in to prove that there was no scrap metal, that it was on grass, turf. It wasn't on turf or grass. It had stone underneath. That also was a falseness. And the one thing he forgot to do, which amazed me, was all the pictures that he took, he didn't take a picture of the back of the trailer. It was plated, which is part of the thing of having that trailer on the property. You got to have it plated, not on grass, which it was on gravel. But as far as having anything inside, no steel inside. Now let me think of what else I had. I was counting on, like I said, I sent all them documents. And the time limit for what they gave me, it's here. Well, I don't have, anyway, I remember. What happened was, the 25th, my property, they did an inspection and found that I had waste on my property. There are pictures I sent of what they were. They were some dishes left on what do you call it, on a bench, some cat food cans that I had a guy that was taking care of my animals in my yard for me, left the bag there and the raccoons were tore it apart. The other things that he took a picture in my backyard of my lawnmower, a piece of 4x8 plywood, a sink, a pipe, which is all barter for the guy cutting my lawn. Okay, that, yeah, and in that picture there, November 10th, they came and took the trailer. November 11th, on Remembrance Day, they took things that were not even listed. 12th was Saturday, 13th was a Sunday, 14th they came back and took more things. I've sent all the, like I said, the videotape, everything is kind of answered in there for me to take that all apart. Now, at that point, on the Remembrance Day, I spoke to Danny because I tried to get a hold of him. I got my mail. The 25th, he did his inspection. Which was a Tuesday after a Monday, which was a recycling day. Friday of that week, which would have been the 28th, he filled out the penalty notices at 5:30. I sent copies of those, which right there is 3 days lost in time. Now, I got it, it was postmarked from the city the 31st of October, which is the beginning of the Monday after that week, which is another 3 days, which was 6 days. Now, on the 4th, when I got that, I tried to phone here. I never got a call back from him. 5th and 6th went by, which was the weekend. I called on the Saturday, left a message. I got no reply again. On the 8th, I came down to City Hall, but he wasn't here. Now, on the 10th, they came and took that. Now, I was staying at my son's. First week of May, I had arterial bypass surgery and shunts put in. I was completely, nothing I could do, anything. I stayed at my son's. By about June, July, I was more mobile a little bit with a walker and came down there to feed my animals and to see the guy I had cut in the lawn. Now, what happened about the second week of August, because of my low immune system, I came down with shingles on my right leg below my knee. I don't know if you've had them or know anybody that had, but I wouldn't recommend that anybody had them. I had total paralysis in my right leg, total. I couldn't pick it up, couldn't drive standard, nothing. Now, and I'm not supposed to lift anything more than 13 pounds. Now, in the meantime, Danny was aware of all this. So those situation with that waste on my yard, I couldn't pick it up. I had to walk with the cane. There was nothing I could do. Even though I looked at it, there was nothing I could do. Now, when they're listening to that tape, my daughter is on that, filming that. She mentions in there that I did fall. I was prone to fall because my knee would give out. It's still not perfect. So my point being is that it was very limited in what I could do. I've always conformed. I've never had any problems. But this attack, all of a sudden, and they didn't let me get anything out of the C-can. It was all valuable stuff. They didn't let me take anything out of the trailer. And the trailer pictures show, I warned them about towing that away because it was going to damage it. They towed it and totally destroyed it. Everything that was inside got dumped, my grandson's hockey cards, everything. There was no metal in it. And when they pulled it, they ripped the top of it. So it's completely now junk, garbage. That's in that hour-long video. The other thing is the bylaw. Danny came on that Good Friday, Remembrance Day, and I said to him, how come you guys aren't in with the commemorative thing with your uniforms there instead of being here and doing this to me in the rain? I was out there in the rain. I didn't feel very good. You know, I had one of the pictures that shows that they have shows me actually standing there with my cane in my hand out there, asking the person tearing everything apart what they were doing. They had no business for what they were doing. So basically, I think, yeah, okay. So I mentioned to him about that, you know, here you are, my relatives and all the other veterans, what they did, you're not even respecting them, and yet you're now, to me, what they were fighting and died for, they're taking my stuff. Totally very rude to me, the whole thing, like I was a criminal, like I'd done something wrong. And in that video, you can see the bylaw guy. What happened was Danny left, and now somebody else showed up. This guy I never seen before. And his main thing, I said to him, hey, if they're going to be doing anything on my yard, cutting up a thing, how come they don't have safety glasses? Reply, I don't tell them what to do. I don't know what's going on. And it's on that tape. The whole thing is on that tape. And he says that in the meantime, the guy from Urge to Purge walks over to one of the sheds that was there and takes it apart and takes the stuff out. That wasn't even part of what was going on. On that day, all they had left to take was that container, okay? Now, you've probably seen the picture of it. It was on my yard for, like I said, 18 years. You couldn't see it from the road. And the other thing is, after the...
I'm going to ask you to wrap up because the 10
Okay.
minutes is up. Just
Okay.
Summarize.
Yeah, 10 minutes goes fast, eh?
I know it does.
Okay, I hope I didn't, I tried to do my best with that. You know, I spent time with this. I was very concerned with it. I mean, I have more now, but once I come up with that, I have one more videotape. That one was taken on the 14th, so whether I have more time to explain what's going on with that or whatever, I don't know, and what my next step's gonna be. So this is all new to me here.
So what we're going to do is we're going to get Jason to speak on behalf of staff, and then I'll open the floor for questions to either one of you from council, okay?
Okay?
So Jason will go up next.
Okay, now the other thing, just one more thing, with that Urge to Purge, I have heard from a couple other people. I was at Ken Salvage, and the guy was in there, and they took his stuff. He was literally there crying, trying to buy it back, okay? Trying to buy back his stuff. Now, I heard through a couple of places, other people telling me that somebody is related to either brother-in-law or something, but somebody in the bylaw department is related to somebody in that Urge to Purge. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but I've heard that from 2 or 3 different people. Now, if you could check into that and see what the issue is on that.
Thank you. I'll have Jason go up next and...
Okay, now, you guys want to ask me some questions? Or?
No, after he's done, then we'll open the floor for questions to either one of you.
Okay.
Okay? Don't go too far, just... Go ahead, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I apologize, I'm not entirely sure what the ask is, but I can just identify that a work order identifying the bylaw infractions were sent to the owner, Mr. Michael. Compliance was not achieved, and so therefore the city ended up having to bring a crew in. There is a history that goes back several years with this property of non-compliance, and it's a reoccurring issue. We did do a significant cleanup on the property in November of 2022. The storage container that's being referred to, I believe, was the rear end of a cube van. And the trailer was identified as an inoperative vehicle. It had to be removed by a flatbed because it wasn't towable. Everything that was removed were violations of the bylaw. The trailer, if there were any items of significance to the owner, the trailer was not recycled, it was just impounded, and all the items could have been recoverable. I don't know if they were or not, if there were items in there. I'm not sure what more I can say to it, but I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Okay, I know one question is about if he can pay the bill without it being on his taxes.
Yeah, unfortunately, through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't have that information, but I can speak to our Director of Finance and come back to council with that information.
Thank you. Okay, so now I'm going to open the floor for questions to either Wayne Michael or Jason Simpson from council. So are there any questions? Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Jason. Jason, you mentioned that there were recurring bylaw incidences in the past. And my question is, was there any clearing of materials at the time, or was it just reported, or were things done at the time as well? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. So the property cleanups have occurred on the property in the past. Mr. Michaels has worked on it on several times in the past when we've been there. The property was never really brought into full compliance, but the officers have often always found, taken a more compassionate approach to it and just tried to do the best they could working with Mr. Michaels in the past. This particular incident was the result of a complaint from the neighborhood. And so we wanted to ensure that once and for all, this property was brought into compliance.
Go ahead, Councillor D'Angelo. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just, a quick question. I know you're putting in new standard operating procedures. Were they in place when this property was cleaned up?
No, they were not.
Okay. Can council get a copy of the standard operating procedures? And I think that'd be good information for us. I did watch the video, and there was some questions like, again, I think this is becoming a recurring thing in our community, and one of the things I always hear is the people that are being affected by this would like a list of exactly what is going to be taken, because the comments I hear, and I've heard it quite regularly, and I'm getting to a question here, is that the bylaw officer comes there, says, okay, get rid of these things, and then comes back later with additional items. Is there a list that's given to the individual that has to clean up so that they're, and does the bylaw officer and the individual sign off on an agreement that these are the items that are in contentious, that are causing problems, and the timeline where they have to be removed? Is there an agreement that's between the resident and the bylaw officer?
Thank you. So, no, there is not an agreement. The work orders that are sent to the owner do identify, in general, the information that needs to be rectified, or whatever the issues are that need to be rectified. If the individuals have questions about specifics, we try to send photos with the work orders as well of the items. To the best of our ability, and if there are any questions, then the officers will go out and meet with the owners to try and answer the questions as to what the items are. Providing a detailed list, if it's a small cleanup, is feasible, but on large cleanups like this one, we often deal with piles of stuff, and without rummaging through everything, it's very difficult to identify every item that needs to be removed. And so therefore we provide a general idea as to what needs to be removed, all scrap metal, all operative vehicles, and try to take photos of whatever we can to provide clarity to what needs to be taken care of.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I know it doesn't help this case here, but I think there should be an agreement of the items that have to be removed because they're non-compliant. There should be a timeline set, and there should also be signed by both the officer and the individual. And if you do go back in a further date, that the officer that put the order in should be the one on site, not a different officer who can't answer some of the questions from the previous officer. I know these are some of the concerns I'm hearing out there, so I think if Jason, you could take these back and work on that, I think that's good. I might have a few more, but I saw Councillor DeRose with his hand up, so I'll heed the floor to him for at this moment.
Councillor DeRose.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor D'Angelo. Yeah, I'll have to concur with Councillor D'Angelo. I've heard the same rumblings from people. I don't want to jump all over Jason because I know he's doing his best. And some things are out of his hands, but I just, like a $24,000 bill to remove stuff from a property, that seems excessive to me. How many, just off the top of your head, how many trips would that be to the junkyard or the steel can salvage? Is that like some of these numbers I'm hearing, and when I see our monthly financial reports, it's just alarming.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Officers aren't aware of what the bill will end up being. At the end of the day, we don't receive an estimate or anything like that. We just receive the invoice once the work is done. If we were to ask for estimates, I suppose we could ask for estimates in advance. That would delay the work being done, but it's certainly something that could be done. An approximate estimate, again, depending on the situation, we may not be aware of everything that needs to be removed until stuff starts to get uncovered. With that said, however, I guess we would need council direction as to if we were to receive estimates identifying that the cleanup would be a significant cost, then we would need to make a determination as to whether or not we're going to move forward with bringing the property into compliance or let it be, because typically in these situations, compliance won't be achieved without our involvement.
Yeah, my concern is that a lot of these, and it's not just one company, every single company that deals with a government entity like a municipality, figure they got unlimited pockets, money trees at City Hall. And I just find these excessive. We discussed this at an earlier meeting, that we were gonna tender that, but we haven't yet, correct?
Correct. That will likely be going out. It's definitely going out before the end of the year. We're just waiting until the season was over so that we're not bringing a new company in partway through to learn all the processes and that.
Okay, yeah, I'll let Councillor Long go. I think he's got his hand ready to go up.
Go ahead,
Thank you,
Councillor
Jason.
Long.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll ask my first question to Mr. Simpson, if I could. I'm just looking at the invoice here on this. It looks like there are about 15 loads. Would that be correct? I just want to make sure I'm understanding how big a job this was. And I guess while you're looking for that, Mr. Simpson, if I could ask Mr. Michael a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Michael. Come up to the microphone again, please.
Okay. Can I make a rebuttal about what he said about the work order? I have a work order here that he sent me, right here. This is the original. You guys got a copy of it. If you look here, none of these boxes are checked. Not one. Not one. And the information they sent me, I have it, was the what do you call it, fence things for the amount of money, the 300, whatever. Then after, when I requested under the Freedom of Information Act, because I wanted a 14th hearing to discuss what happened, that's when I seen the 3 that I sent you with the, what they call waste. There was nothing else mentioned, only the camper and that box of mine and those 3 items. They were gone within a couple of days, as soon as I got somebody to help me. Now, as far as this bill goes, okay, like I sent 40 pictures of 40 cubic yard containers. I think you've seen on the video when they dropped that one on the road. Everybody in Port Robinson was there. They came to see what was going on. And where he says that I've been in non-compliance, I don't disagree with that. But I got somebody who's laying complaints and making harassment for me. Because you also probably seen in my pictures, I showed a big Costco can that's sitting right out in somebody's yard. Sitting there. It says that right on there. My unit was 18 years, whatever, in the back. And like on here, if
Okay,
you...
so the
Okay,
question, we're right here
I
for
do
a
have a question for you, Mr. Michael.
Now, go ahead,
Okay,
Councillor.
go
I guess
ahead.
my question is, I understand why you're here tonight, but what are you asking for? What is it you want?
I want justice. I want to find some resolve for this.
And that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
What is the resolution in your mind?
Well, if I could get, I don't feel that from a lot of the material that they took when you watch the video that I should have to pay for that. Like, I mean, when you look on this bill here, they give me a rebate for scrap metal they took. That means I paid those guys to load that scrap metal, tear down that shed. They tore 2 sheds down without permission, took all that metal, and then when they got caught at it, they gave me a rebate. Since when do you get a rebate for scrap metal. I could have done that all myself. Like I,
Okay, again, Mr.
So
Michael,
answer the question.
I'd like to know if you could, you've come here tonight, obviously, and I
Right.
can understand, I wouldn't be happy either,
Yeah.
but you've come here to speak to us. We need to know what you're looking for.
well, I'm
Because I
looking-
don't know what we can do, but I want to know what it is you want, and then we can go from there.
Well, I would like that amount of money reduced significantly or taken right off the table. Also, I don't know what I want to do with that bylaw officer. I think he did something with the code of honor or code of ethics or whatever. I don't think that you should be able to go and make up stories about people, especially where that now initiates this whole thing and presents me in a bad light. He said that they did a cleanup there on November 22nd. Nobody was there from the city on November 22nd at my place. And anytime I have conformed, nobody's ever come there. I don't deny that things have come and gone. That's just the nature of what we do my whole life. We have that old antique or old houses, Stark House. Mine's a jail that was built. We collect artifacts and things, but nothing ever was to that point where I didn't take care of it myself. But that's what I'm looking for, is that $24,000 to do a yard that's probably the size of two of these put together, behind a fence. Everything they took was behind a fence.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any further questions, Councillor?
I don't know how that, you can never give me the stuff back. And in that video, where that guy, now, whether I gotta speak to, what's that, integrity commissioner or lawyer or somebody to find out what I gotta do next. In that video, it shows the bylaw guy there and that one of their workers say to him, what's going on with this? He says, I don't know. The homeowner and the bylaw officer. I never talked to Danny about that. Then the guy goes right ahead and tears the cover right off of it, and you can see them taking ammunition boxes. All that was like my money, my money, my income. But that's what I'd like to see, is that I got my house up for sale. I'm going to be forced into bankruptcy. And that's not right, where that guy can, and everything, sure, he says that, oh, there's been this and there's been that. I'm not afraid to admit what I do there. That's why I sent all the pictures. I got nothing to hide. But that was just a blatant attack on me. They knew I didn't feel that good. There was lucky I couldn't do what I could do. I was on painkillers, blood thinners, you know what I mean? Like, it's just not right. So that's what I'm looking at that could be done.
Councillor Longo, do you have any further questions?
No.
Okay, Councillor David, Jason and then Councillor Divides.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to respond to Councillor Longo's question prior. I just did a quick review of the invoice. I counted 11 loads. Mind you, it was a quick count in this time, but total of 13.7 tons of waste.
Thank you. Mr. Divides.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I see both sides of this. Like, I watched the video too. I don't think the bylaw officer did anything wrong. I don't think the same person has to be there. There's a lot of stuff there, and I see the city, maybe we should have put out for tender also and and $24,000 is a huge amount of money to pay. I see both sides, but there's some guilt on your side quite a bit because it's occurring. And I wouldn't want to be a neighbor there also to see all that stuff there. And maybe the city has to change some things too, but it's both people, not just the city's fault here.
Thank you. Go ahead, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's been a lot of mention of a video. I'm not familiar with the video. So if that video was able to be provided to me, I'd be happy to review it to see if there's something that could be fixed up for moving forward as well.
Thank you. Are you willing to send that to Jason, the video?
Excuse me?
Are you willing to send the video to Jason?
To Jason, yes, I will.
Okay, thank you.
My grandson sent all that. I sent them to you and the councilman, and I can have one for him, not a problem. As a matter of fact, if he wants, I can walk out to my truck right now. I've got the stick with it all recorded on there, and he can put it right in his computer.
Okay, is there any further questions for the two presenters? Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the presenter also mentioned, if I can ask a question, you were looking at some sort of relief to get it onto your tax bill or a payment plan? Is that?
Well, to get it off my property tax, what happens is it goes all there in one big sum. I went in and paid my property tax. I paid it by check so that I would have proof that I paid it for the 30th that went by just a while ago. I believe that was, what, June in there? It just goes right on that 24,000, 25,000. Now what happens, now I'm arrears in property tax, but this is something that shouldn't be, it's got to be looked into. I know what he said about, okay, fine, there's stuff on my property, but there is the laws, the bylaws state that if it's not outside and being to the elements and whatever, it's like, I don't know how long it's after to explain it after that, except by what you see in the you know, the videos and that pictures.
So Jason said he'll talk to the Director of Finance and get an answer on that, which am I correct? Is that what?
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Yes, I can talk to the Director of Finance regarding it. I will add that the Municipal Act identifies that in these situations, invoice goes unpaid, then the Municipal Act authorizes the municipalities to add the unpaid debts to the property taxes. Whether or not there are any other options available, that's something I would need to talk to the Director of Finance about.
Yeah. Go ahead, Councilor.
Just for procedure, so we'll, Jason, the director will come back with a report to council then with those items?
One of the things they say here is if we want a wholesome report back from this meeting today, which would include that, that's one of the options for this group to make prior to, do we want a staff report back? Then we'll...
Well, I'll put a motion on the floor that we have a staff report that comes back, looking at the financial implications here, what can be done regarding that. I would also...
you want to grab that?
Right back to the proponent here, and if you could come up and put your ask in writing of what you specifically want, because I know you mentioned you'd like to get rid of the whole bill, but if you can give us exactly what you want, so that could be encompassed into the report also.
Okay.
If you can do that, if you can direct that to Mr. Simpson, so that he can include that in his report.
Okay.
I think, Councilor Longo, did you have anything else? Because I know you were...
No, I agree with what you're saying. I think we need a report because I believe Mr. Simpson needs to look at this video. I haven't seen it either. I wasn't provided with it.
Okay.
But once he has all the information, we could have staff make a recommendation to us.
Okay. So I'd like to, Mr. Mayor, like I said, I put that as a motion on the floor that we direct staff to come back with a wholesome report, identifying a couple items that council has spoken to, and if other councilors want to make sure other items are added, please feel free.
Go ahead.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, in discussing the potential of asking for additional information through this forum with the clerk, what can be done is it can be brought forward as a new item for consideration at the 6:30 meeting today, and then whatever motion gets passed for whatever request can be voted on at that time.
So this request will come on open council, okay?
Yeah, but if we can make a recommendation for this committee.
Yes, and that recommendation will go over to the council.
Mr. Mayor, I'm good with that, just because there's
So
councilors
that's what we
missing.
will do. So the recommendation, I had a mover, Councillor D'Angelo, is there a seconder for that? Councillor Longo, and so we're going to do that in council tonight to ask for a staff report back. Okay, regarding, let's get some details to that. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could I also add a friendly amendment that we stop interest charges till this is resolved? Is that possible?
Well, that's an issue that have to be dealt with finance.
Yeah, I just don't think it's fair at this point to keep piling on interest. And it's tough times, and I feel bad for people, and as much as they have to follow bylaw rules, we have to have compassion. Thank you.
Thank you. Point well taken. Go ahead, Councillor Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Jason, if we could also include the timeframes in the report where notices were sent out and all the different stages along the way, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Long.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Procedurally, how do we do this going into the meeting? Do we add an item to the agenda?
Yes, it's going to be an amended agenda.
All right, thank you.
Okay? We've got that, you've captured it? Do you want to read back? So I want to make sure everybody's happy with what we're doing.
Yeah, so again, I can prepare a slide which will appear at the 6:30 meeting under items for consideration, but you're essentially looking for additional information from staff with respect to various information such as Mr. Simpson will be consulting with the Director of Finance with respect to the tax roll question.
Payment. Because that was brought up.
Yes, sorry, Jason.
If I could, I believe the the committee motion would be that council direct staff to prepare a fulsome report regarding the cleanup that occurred at 40 River Street in Thorold in November of 2022, including recommendations in response to the owner's request, something along those lines.
Okay, is everybody good with that? And that'll come under, it'll be an amendment to the agenda, and then we'll add it on under items for consideration, okay?
Mr. Mayor, just for clarity, I do have some other bylaw related issues on this. Can we add that to the agenda too? Because it really deals with complaints that are coming forward at this point in time. And if you give me a second, I'll sort of elaborate. There seems to be a concern that we don't have a tender process for Urge to Purge at this point in time. So if we're going to continue until we have a tender process in place, we should have Urge to Purge come forward with estimates for any cleanup costs so the residents are fully aware of what the cost is. I know it may delay things by a few days, but I think that's very valuable considering that, and maybe if you can answer, I don't know when the last tender process was for Urge to Purge. I know when I served on council before, you always put that out for tender every couple of years. I don't know if you have that answer, Mr. Simpson, when the last time that was out for tender.
He can answer that.
I don't have the exact date in front of me at the moment, but I believe it was approximately 4 years ago.
Okay, all right. So I think that's very critical right now because, like I said, just because you have a tender, some of these prices are somewhat outrageous for doing things. So I think it's important that the citizens understand what the costs will be, and then that way, if they choose not to lapse on it, they can have alternate methods of cleaning up. And it may help with compliance. Thank you.
Do you want that as part of the report?
Well, no, because I want this as part of the council so we could vote on this and implement that because the report's going to take over a month. So I don't want the same problems continuing here because the list is getting long of these issues. So I'm trying to put some Band-Aids on this to get us through to the tender process. That's what I'm looking for. But I'm looking for how you want to handle that at council. Thank you.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, is this perhaps something that could be done through a notice of motion? Since it is looking at the issue, I guess, a bit more generally than Mr. Michael's concerns?
Okay, if you could put that on the agenda as a notice of motion, I'll ask for leave at the meeting this later on, so that we can deal with it. Thank you.
That's fine. Okay. So is everybody good? We had a mover and a seconder to do that and add it to the agenda. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay. So there will be a report coming back. So we basically, this issue's not finished. We haven't, it will be finished when a report comes back and.
Now, will there be a complete breakdown of this from Urge to Purge, this invoice with showing what weights he took and where they were like deposited? When you see the video, you see 2 or 3 of them 40 cubic yard cans. Like everything in my yard that they should have took, when they came, all they had left to take was what I call my storage container, which it was. After that, everything was not in contravening any bylaw.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Wayne and Michael, and thank you everyone for being here. This time I adjourn this meeting at